Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome to another video. In this video, we're going to be going over the 9.0.5 changes to Legendaries. Again, I'm going to give a brief overview of each of the classes. However, I'm going to focus a little bit more on the classes I play because I understand what them changes are likely to mean. Death Knight Pheromones now grants 10% haste while inside your Death and Decay. This is a legendary that I've heard DKs talking about as something they want to see viable. But at the moment, it just isn't, and I don't think 2% haste is going to be that big difference. The Crimson Rune Weapon, I think personally, is something that can be very strong now. Dancing Rune Weapon gives you 5 Bone Shield charges, which just helps your mitigation, and it reduces the cooldown by 5 seconds instead of 3. I think that's something that could make a big difference to the legendary. Maybe it's something we'll start seeing a little bit of viability on. Vampiric Aura now increases the duration of Vampiric Blood and gives 5% leech. That's pretty cool. It kind of buffs Vampiric Blood and increases the duration. Really nice change. Gorfiend's Domination also grants 45 runic power when Vampiric Blood is used. I don't really know what that legendary does or is, so hey. Reanimated Shambler is the explosion one that summons a corpse randomly while you're doing your rotation. They've increased the proc rate and increased the damage. I mean, their legendaries are a bit weak anyway, it seems. They don't have kind of massive rotational changes or gameplay changes with these legendaries. Going into Demon Hunter, Fell Bombardment's buff duration has been increased to 40 seconds instead of 30. I don't really know what these two legendaries do. Dark Glare Medallion is the chance to reset I-Beam. There's a chance to increase to 40% instead of 20, and now also refunds the Fury of the Cast. Oh, wow! Dark Glare Medallion is going to be insane and like almost perma I-Beam or perma meta for Mythic Plus, potentially. It's a really cool change. I actually like that, and that's something that I would probably play myself. Burning Wound, I don't really know what that does, unfortunately. Vengeance, I don't know. Let's talk about Druid. I know Druid. So Feral, Katai Curio now restores 38% energy instead of 25. So this is your clear casting procs. Now give you 30% energy back of the ability you used. It was going to be 35% but got nerfed. It's not something that's going to make it the best legendary for Druids or for Feral. It makes it a little bit more viable, probably a little bit more viable in Mythic Plus. But I still don't think it's going to be our best anything, which is a little bit sad. But hey, if you enjoy the playstyle, it's definitely playable, more so than it was. But it's not going to be the best possible one for each situation. The Frenzy Band. This increases your Berserk to do extra damage and reduce the cooldown and things like that. It's a cool idea, but again, I don't think it changes it to something that makes it viable. I think we're still going to be sticking with the same Draught for single target, Circle for kind of AoE, maybe Apex if you want to play that funnel play style, but yeah, I don't think this has really changed much for Ferals. Guardian Druid is just a description change. Nothing's actually changed on the legendary itself. And Resto Druid, Verdant Infusion extends the duration of your heal over time effects on the Swiftmen target by 10 seconds. Now, this is a big change, and why you think it's only 2 seconds, actually, it means that we can extend the duration on our Cenarian Ward twice, I believe. That's a huge change, and something that it was mathematically possible at 8 seconds. It makes it viable to do it 10 seconds. And that's a really big tank kind of heal ability. I think this is going to start being used in a lot of content. Maybe not Raid, but certainly Mythic Plus, PvP, that sort of thing. It will definitely be used. Which is cool. I like that. Hunter, I'm going to take my advice from Hunter from people I've spoken to. None of these really change all too much. The nerf to Serpent Stalker's Trickery has made a big dent into Marksman. Beastmaster hasn't kind of been buffed enough to take over that. I don't really know what the meta's going to be for Hunters. It's certainly going to be interesting. Mage, I'm going to skip past. And Monk, I'm going to skip past. I don't really know the classes well enough to comment. Paladin, Of Dusk and Dawn is a horrible thing. It's very passive and it's not very fun, honestly. And a legendary should be fun. I should want to get a legendary. I should want to play with it. That isn't fun for me. Vanguard's Momentum increases your holy damage. So if you're just doing rotation, it should just increase your damage. Which is nice. I mean, yeah, fair enough. Inflorescence of the Sun increases infusion of light effects. I believe that's the Flash of Light, like instant procs, which is nice. Shadowbreaker Dawn of the Sun. Now this is the Light of Dawn buff, I believe, or legendary, I believe, which gives you a mastery buff for 8 seconds after you heal someone that had your mastery or something like that, after your Light of Dawn maybe. All in all, it's a really nice change, and it's a legendary that I personally am going to get for raiding. So a nice little buff for me. Murad's Dying Breath, I still think the Light and Martyr is a weird ability for paladins, and it's not something that's widely used. Maybe there's people that can make this work, but not for me, thanks, Chef. Now, Protection, the Ancient Protector's Sanctum has been completely redesigned, and I really like it. When it saves you from death, it restores 40% additional health. When it expires without saving you from death, its cooldown is reduced by 40%. I think this is something that when you pair it with the Conduit and things like that, Argent Defender's almost always going to be there, and it's really going to make Paladins this unkillable tank, which is quite cool, actually. So I'm looking forward to seeing this a little bit more. Now, Final Verdict is the legendary that a lot of people are using for PvP. It already does a lot of damage. It doesn't need another 15%, I promise you that. But they're giving it to anyway. The Judgment has been nerfed from the Kyrian Covenant ability, which I can't remember the name of at the moment. So maybe this is to kind of balance it out. I mean, Final Verdict wouldn't go amiss for PvE as well, but yeah, I don't see this being a good change for Rets. I'm not sure just chucking numbers at it is the right answer right now. So I'm going to look specifically at Shadow. I don't really play the other two specs. Framebreaker Psalm grants up to 30 Insanity. I actually don't know what that one is. Give me 2 seconds. Okay, so that's the legendary that consumes 8 seconds of your buffs. So now it's going to give you 30 Insanity and function with Death and Madness, which I'm not sure what it is, but it sounds really, really good. Shadow Flame's Rift is what was originally planned to be the Mythic Plus legendary, I think, for Shadow, where your Shadow Fiend kind of slaps things through little portals. If it's been buffed by that much, I would say it's maybe starting to become viable. It's certainly something I'm going to have a look at. Now, Rogue. Mark of the Master Assassin now only deals now only affects auto attacks and rogue abilities critical strike chance. This stops you being able to do the Necrotic Wake cheese, where you get guaranteed crit on the orb. Good change. They didn't need it. It was just broken and it wasn't fun. So I'm really glad they've made that change, to be honest. Tiny Toxic Blade now causes Shiv to deal 500% increased damage instead of 350%. Again, this is what I was talking about in my other video. If you have to buff an ability by this much to make it viable, then is it something we really want in the rotation? And the answer is probably not. Now, Essence of Bloodfang, let's have a look at that one, because I think that is our new Assassination Legendary. Okay, so this is Essence of Bloodfang. It increases you have a chance to infect the target and heal you. It's like a vampiric thing. Not something that it wasn't the one I was thinking of anyway. Doomblade was the one I was thinking of. That gives your Mutilate a bleed, basically. Really cool. Duskwalker's Patch reduces Vendetta's cooldown for every 30 energy you spend instead of 50. This is nice for PvP, gives you faster cooldown bursts. For PvE, it's not that great. Unless you're doing it in raid, in which case maybe that's something that becomes viable. We'll have to have a look. Guile Charm, which was the Sinister Strike one, now increases your damage belt by 15% and lasts up to 12 seconds. Just increases the damage and makes it longer. It is what it is. Greensucker's Wickers increases the damage of your pistol shot. Again, we're buffing things by hundreds of percentages. That's not fun. That's not... Rework the ability. Anyway. The Rotter now causes Backstab to deal extra damage, and Deadly Shadows increases all damage dealt by 15%. I believe that's your Vanish Legendary. All in all, Assassination's looking really good, and the changes to Legendaries for Assassination's looking really good. They've nerfed this, which is great. I think it's Rogue's in a good spot. Shaman. Now, this is a good change. So, now cause your Earthquake to deal 120% additional damage, and this is what I was talking about with the other abilities where you're buffing things by 500%. We used to be able to, with this legendary plus Master of the Elements, increase something by 200% damage, increase Earthquake by 200% damage. Wasn't fun, and it puts everything into that one ability. what they've done is they've reduced the damage. You can still play with this, and it's still going to do a little bit more damage. But your Earthquake itself is built into the ability just to do a little bit more damage now, which is nice. We really like that. Or I really like that. Legacy of the Frost Witch. It was something that was already viable. It's the Maelstrom legendary for enhancement. Now causes your Storm Strike to deal 30% increased damage instead of 15. I don't know that this will be enough to overtake Doomwind, which is just very strong, but hey, maybe. So let's look at the Restoration legendaries. Natural Focus increases the next chain heal by 20% instead of 10, stacks up to 5 times. This is 100% buff to your next chain heal. We could potentially get some really, really big chain heals, which could be fun for Mythic Plus. Maybe that's something that become a little bit more viable. Spirit Walker's Tidal Totem now reduces the mana cost of Healing Wave and Chain Heal by 40%. This means that during your Mana Tide, you get really cheap abilities as well, which is nice. It gives kind of a big Innovate type ability for Chamois, which very, very strong. Let's look at Warlock. Malefic Wrath and Wrath of Consumption. Both of these have been buffed. I still think they're going to be struggling with Synergy, which is the current legendary that Warlocks use. But maybe we can start seeing something. All of these changes for Demonology are really nice. Implosive Potential gives the haste buff a little bit more duration, probably enough to get you into the next pack, which is really, really nice if that's possible. Bale Spider's Burning Core is nice for single target. I don't see it's going to be very nice for kind of trying to keep up over a Mythic Plus. And Grim Inquisitor's Dread Calling, something I want to test personally. I think this might be quite fun now with the new dogs, or the buff dogs, I should say. For Destruction Madness of the Azquir, duration increased to 4 seconds. It's not viable. It's something that maybe would be used in PvP, but ultimately you're going to want, if you were using it in PvP, you would fire Chaos Bolt, Chaos Bolt, Chaos Bolt. Adding an extra 1 second wouldn't make that a big deal. It needs to be long enough for you to kind of generate enough embers to cast another Chaos Bolt for it to be viable, I think. And then you'd be able to keep the buff up permanently and it'd probably be overpowered. So hey. Embers of the Diabolic Raiment now properly generate 6 soul fragments when dealing a critical strike with Incinerate. I mean, that's quite nice for just generating more embers, but yeah, it's not something. I mean, we've got other legendaries that we play like Cinders. For Warriors, again, they're increasing the damage a little bit more for protection, and giving us more rage and things like that. Charging into Intervene could use shield block for 4 seconds, which, I mean, nice. Once you get into a pack, you're going to immediately get in, start blocking, and reduce that instant hit damage that Warriors seem to have. I think this is a really nice change, and maybe that will become a Mythic Plus legendary for Warriors. Obviously, lots of charges and intervenes and things like that. Very, very nice. It also gives you a revenge and extra rage, which, yeah, why not? Fury. I don't really know Fury and Arms all too well. From what I've heard, they're quite good changes, but we'll have to just see how they play. All in all, and this is why I'm doing these videos, the changes, there are lots of buffs, very few nerfs. They're trying to make all the specs viable. I can't fault Blizz for doing that. I think these are really nice changes so far. So guys, there is a PvP section. I'm not going to go over it. I just don't know PvP that well at the moment. It's not something I'm all too interested in. Just to quickly go over the other things then. The more we've now started getting teleport nodes on the walkable chains in Torghast so that you don't fall off the damn things because Blizzard's pathing's awful. That's nice. Torghast, there's lots of changes to Torghast. I'm not going to go through all these. They're pretty much irrelevant by now. Anyone with about 210 eye level can just walk through Torghast layer 8. So, guys, I'm going to leave this here. This will be my last video on the patch notes. To sum up, I think all of these changes are good. There's very few nerfs, lots of buffs. I think this is something that we can get really behind and excited about. They're trying to make a little bit of variation in the meta, in not forcing us all to play the same specs, the same legendaries and things like that. And fine, there will always be a meta, there will always be the strongest, but what I want to see is the difference between the best and the worst being quite close. At the moment, you have Boomies, Affliction Warlocks at the top of Mythic leaderboards, and you have Beastmasters doing less than half the damage. That's not fun. They kind of nerfed Marksman a little bit, buff Beastmaster. They're changing that gap or closing that gap, and that's what I want to see. All in all, I think these are really good changes. There's still another video to come on the Valor changes. So guys, thanks for watching. If you like the videos, like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Let me know what you think, and I will catch you later. Goodbye, guys.